but there may still be a significantly smaller subset than some of the numbers that have been advertised. That are still looking for options, are still concerned about what they're going to be doing next year. And we just wanted to make sure that the hardship provision that was already existing in the law would also potentially apply to somebody who had problems during this transition period. So that's the specifics of this latest change. You're making a broader point that I think is fair, and that is that in a big project like this, that what we are constantly doing is looking, is this working the way it's supposed to? And if there are adjustments that can be made to smooth out the transition, we should make them. But they don't go to the core of the law. First of all, the core of the law is that for 85% of the population, all they've been getting is free preventive care. Better consumer protections, and ability to keep their kids on their insurance plan until they're 26. $1,000 or $500 discounts on prescription drugs for seniors on Medicare. So 85% of the population, whether they know it or not, over the last 3 years have benefited from a whole set of the provisions of the law. And, by the way, if it were to be repealed, you would be taking away all those benefits from folks who already are enjoying them. You had this subportion of the population, 15%, who either don't have health insurance or are buying it on the individual market. And that's still millions of people. And what we're doing is creating a marketplace where They can buy insurance and we can provide them some tax credits to help them afford it. The basic structure of that law is working despite all the problems, despite the website problems. Despite the messaging problems. Despite all that, it's working. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. We've got a couple million people who are going to have health insurance just in the first 3 months. Despite the fact that probably the first month and a half was lost because of problems with the website and about as bad a bunch of publicity as you could imagine. And yet you've still got 2 million people who signed up, or more. And so what that means then is that the demand is there and, as I said before, the product is good. Now, in putting something like this together, there are going to be all kinds of problems that crop up, some of which may have been unanticipated. And what we've been trying to do is just respond to them in a common sense way. And we're going to continue to try to do that. But that doesn't negate the fact that a year from now or 2 years from now, when we look back, we're going to be able to say that even more people have health insurance who didn't have it before. And that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. That is part of the reason why I pushed so hard to get this law done in the first place. And I've said before, this is a messy process, and I think sometimes when I say that, people say, well, A, yes, it's real messy, and B, isn't the fact that it's been so messy some indication that there are more fundamental problems with the law? And I guess what I'd say to that, Chuck, is when you try to do something this big. Affecting this many people, it's going to be hard. And every instance, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, the prescription drug plan under President Bush, there hasn't been an instance. Where you tried to really have an impact on the American people's lives and well-being. Particularly in the healthcare arena, where you don't end up having some of these challenges. The question is going to be ultimately, do we make good decisions trying to help as many? People as possible in as efficient a way as possible. And I think that's what we're doing. But with 72 hours to go, you make this change where people are buying the junk, frankly. A junk type policy that you were trying to get people away from. President Obama, well, keep in mind, Chuck, first of all, that the majority of folks are going to have different options. This is essentially an additional net in case folks might have slipped through the cracks. We don't have precision on those numbers, but we expect it's going to be a relatively small number. Because these are folks who want insurance and the vast majority of them have good options. And in a state like North Carolina, for example, the overwhelming majority of them have just kept their own plans, the ones that they had previously. But we thought and continue to think that it makes sense that as we are transitioning to a system in which insurance standards are higher, people don't have unpleasant surprises because they thought they had insurance until they hit a limit, and next thing you know they still owe $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 for a hospital visit that as we transition to higher standards, better insurance. That we also address folks who get caught in that transition and there are unintended consequences. And I'll be that was the original intent of the grandfather clause that was in the law. Obviously, the problem was it didn't catch enough people. And we learned from that, and we're trying not to repeat those mistakes. Q. So does the mandate need to be enforced? President Obama, absolutely. Yes. Let's see, Phil Mattingly. Q. Thank you, Mr. President. What was the message you were trying to send with not only your decision not to attend the Sochi Games? But also with the people you named to the delegation to represent the United States at those games. President Obama, well, first of all, I haven't attended Olympics in the past. And I suspect that me attending the Olympics, particularly at a time when we've got all the other stuff that people have been talking about. Is going to be tough, although I would love to do it. I'll be going to a lot of Olympic Games post-presidency. I think the delegation speaks for itself. You've got outstanding Americans, outstanding athletes, people who will represent us extraordinarily well. And the fact that we've got folks like Billie Jean King or Brian Boitano. who themselves have been world-class athletes that everybody acknowledges for their excellence but also for their character. Who also happen to be members of the LGBT community. You should take that for what it's worth, that when it comes to the Olympics and athletic performance, we don't make distinctions on the basis of sexual orientation. We judge people on how they perform, both on the court and off the court, on the field and off the field. And that's a value that I think is at the heart of not just America, but American sports. I'm going to just roll down these last few, real quickly. Ari Shapiro. Last day at the White House. He deserves a question. Q. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senator Max Baucus was widely seen as the best hope for a large-scale deal to overhaul the tax code. What does your decision to nominate him as ambassador to China? Say about your hopes for major tax bill in your second term? President Obama, it says that Max Baucus is going to be an outstanding ambassador to China. And I'd like a swift confirmation. And my expectation and hope is that if both the Senate Democrats, or if Democrats and Republicans in the House and the Senate are serious about tax reform, then it's not going to depend on one guy, it's going to depend on all of us working together. And my office is ready, willing, and eager to engage both parties and having a conversation about how we can simplify the tax code. Make it fairer, make it work to create more jobs and do right by middle-class Americans. Jackie Kalmes. Q. Thank you, Mr. President. And how do you say it in Hawaii? Meli kaliki maka. President Obama, Meli kaliki maka. Q. Since we've been looking back at the year, I'd like to ask you what your reaction was to the nonpartisan truth-telling group, PolitiFact. When it said that the lie of the year was your statement that if you like your healthcare plan, you can keep it. And related to the healthcare problems that we've seen over the past year. The fallout from that seems to be making Democrats, particularly in the Senate, a little rambunctious and independent of you. Which is evidenced most clearly in the debate over the Iran sanctions. It looks like Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has expedited consideration of an Iran sanctions bill for January. Even as your administration and you have been trying to get them to lay off sanctions while you're President Obama, Jackie, I've got to say, you're stringing a bunch of things along here. Let's see if we can hone in on a question. I mean, I. Q. Two questions. That's a lot less than Ed Henry had. Q. Oh. I thought we were trying to get along for Christmas. President Obama, how about I separate out the Iran question from the healthcare question? On the healthcare question, look, I think I've answered several times this is a new iteration of it, but bottom line is that we are going to continue to work every single day to make sure that implementation of the health Care law and the website and all elements of it, including the grandfather clause, work better every single day. And as I've said in previous press conferences, we're going to make mistakes. And we're going to have problems, but my intentions have been clear throughout, which is I just want to help as many people as possible feel secure and make sure that they don't go broke when they get sick. And we're going to just keep on doing that.